Under the soft glow of Paris's evening lights, the French Republic finds itself once again in a moment of political recalibration. President Emmanuel Macron, after a week of tense consultations and mounting pressure from across the political spectrum, has reappointed Sébastien Lecornu as Prime Minister, the very man whose resignation days earlier had deepened France's ongoing governmental crisis. The move, announced late into the night from the Élysée Palace, has drawn mixed reactions. Some view it as a bid for continuity, others as a defiant gamble from a president already facing the risk of parliamentary revolt. At 39 years old, Lecornu is no stranger to crisis management. A self-proclaimed soldier monk of public service, he rose through the ranks of France's centre-right before aligning himself with Macron's broader centrist vision. But his brief resignation earlier in the week, a mere 14 hours after unveiling his cabinet, sent shockwaves through the political establishment. Conservatives in Les Républicains, the very allies Macron had courted to form a stable coalition, bristled at the composition of Lecornu's team, accusing the president of reshuffling faces without addressing the deeper discontent over France's direction. Now, Lecornu returns to the helm with a daunting mission: to secure parliamentary backing for the 2026 budget, a task that will determine not just France's fiscal trajectory, but the survival of Macron's government itself. The country's debt levels have ballooned, and European partners are urging Paris to rein in its deficit. The stakes could not be higher. A failed budget vote would almost certainly trigger a political implosion, potentially paving the way for early elections, a prospect Macron has fought to avoid since the 2024 legislative gridlock fractured his majority. Sources close to the Élysée say Macron's decision followed a marathon round of meetings with party leaders. For more than 2 hours, the president and Lecornu reportedly met with senior figures across the political spectrum, from socialists to conservatives, in search of a fragile consensus. There is still a possible path to weave compromises, one presidential aide said afterwards, hinting that Macron's team believes there remains just enough room to manoeuvre before resorting to dissolution. Yet the political arithmetic remains perilous. Both left and right blocs have warned that any government perceived as Macronist, as overly loyal to the president, will face immediate censure. In that context, Lecornu's reappointment seems almost paradoxical. He is both the face of continuity and the emblem of renewal Macron hopes to project. As cameras caught him entering the Élysée once again, Lecornu appeared solemn, aware of the symbolic weight of his return. His earlier resignation had been interpreted by some as a gesture of integrity, a recognition that his government, as composed, could not stand. But now his comeback marks an acceptance of the president's challenge to rebuild, brick by political brick, a majority capable of governing. Lecornu's first task is to reassemble a cabinet, one that can appease not only Macron's centrist allies, but also the restless conservatives who hold the key to survival in Parliament. According to insiders, Macron has demanded a government of renewal, one that is not merely a reshuffle of loyalists, but a strategic blend of competence and outreach. The new ministers, Lecornu has insisted, should not harbour ambitions for the 2027 presidential race, a subtle but pointed reminder that Macron's second term must not become a staging ground for personal campaigns. As footage from AFP TV showed, Lecornu's quiet return to the podium contrasted with the growing restlessness outside. Across Paris, journalists and opposition members speculated whether this latest appointment was an act of pragmatism or political stubbornness. Bruno Retailleau, leader of Les Républicains, was seen leaving party headquarters without comment, while François Baroin, the veteran Conservative mayor of Troyes, emerged moments later, his expression giving little away. Their silence spoke volumes. The right remains divided on whether to collaborate with Macron or force a confrontation that could bring the government down. Inside the Élysée, Emmanuel Moulin, the presidential secretary-general, sought to frame the moment as one of continuity and confidence. France needs stability, he reportedly told aides, defending the decision as a means of preventing institutional paralysis. The president has chosen experience over uncertainty. Still, in the corridors of power, few are under any illusion about the fragility of that stability. Later that night, President Macron himself appeared before the press. Calm but visibly fatigued, he delivered a brief statement emphasising his determination to see through the reforms France needs. I have confidence in Sébastien Lecornu, he said, his tone deliberate. He has shown both loyalty and courage, qualities indispensable in a period such as this. It was a message intended as reassurance, but one that left open the question of how long that confidence can withstand the storms of parliamentary politics. As Macron departed the Pantheon earlier in the day, after a ceremony honouring the late Justice Minister Robert Badinter, a man synonymous with moral courage and constitutional fidelity, the symbolism was not lost on observers. The president, walking alongside philosopher Elizabeth Badinter, seemed to draw upon that moment of solemn reflection to project an image of resilience. Yet behind the choreography of the Republic's rituals lies a leader increasingly hemmed in by factionalism, protest fatigue, and dwindling trust. Since 2024, France has wrestled with political turbulence unseen in decades. The collapse of traditional party loyalties, the rise of populist sentiment, and the erosion of parliamentary cohesion have left Macron governing from the middle of a political minefield. Lecornu's appointment, his third prime minister in just over a year, is a symptom of that instability. Each reshuffle has promised renewal. Each has instead underscored the difficulty of reconciling France's competing visions of reform, sovereignty, and social justice. The path ahead is lined with obstacles. Within weeks, Lecornu must present a 2026 budget that balances austerity with the president's pledge to protect the social model. The left warns that any cuts to welfare or pensions will provoke street mobilisation. The right demands stricter fiscal discipline and a freeze on new spending. Trade unions, already sceptical of Macron's reformist zeal, are preparing for another season of strikes. France's winter could once again be defined by protests and gridlock. For Macron, the challenge is existential. With less than 2 years left in his presidency and no constitutional path to re-election, his ability to shape his legacy depends on securing stability through compromise, a concept increasingly alien to France's polarised landscape. Lecornu, whose pragmatism and discipline earned him Macron's trust during his tenure as defence minister, is now tasked with translating that loyalty into tangible governance. Observers note that Lecornu's military background informs his approach, meticulous, disciplined, and unflinchingly procedural. His aides often describe him as a technocrat with a soldier's ethic, unafraid of long hours and unyielding in his pursuit of order. But politics, unlike military command, thrives on persuasion rather than hierarchy. Whether his disciplined style can navigate the unpredictable currents of parliamentary debate remains to be seen. In the streets, public reaction has been muted but sceptical. Many French citizens express fatigue with what they perceive as endless reshuffling at the top. It's the same faces, the same promises. One Parisian remarked on national television, "We need change, not musical chairs." Polls suggest a deepening cynicism towards the entire political class, a sentiment that could fuel both the far left and far right in the coming electoral cycles. Nevertheless, Macron's inner circle insists the president sees in Lecornu a long-term stabiliser. He is not here to please, but to deliver, one advisor said. France cannot afford another year of paralysis. For now, the Élysées' strategy rests on the assumption that moderation, however fragile, is preferable to collapse. But in a republic accustomed to protest as a form of political expression, even moderation can be combustible. As dawn breaks over Paris the next morning, the facades of the Élysées glisten under the pale sun, the tricolour flag fluttering above. From the air, the palace seems serene, the gardens lush and orderly, an illusion of calm masking the volatility beneath. Within its walls, Lecornu's team begins its first full day back in office, drafting proposals, making calls, sketching alliances that may or may not hold. France's Fifth Republic has weathered crises before, but rarely has its balance seemed so delicate. The reappointment of Sébastien Lecornu is less a resolution than a pause, a fragile truce between ambition and necessity, between presidential will and parliamentary reality. In the days ahead, his government's every decision will be dissected as a test of whether Macron's gamble was an act of foresight or defiance. For now, the Republic holds, but just barely. The weight of its institutions rests once more on the shoulders of a young prime minister, tasked not with winning hearts, but with keeping France governable. And as the French capital hums to life outside the gilded gates, the story of Sébastien Lecornu's improbable return begins, one that may determine the fate of Emmanuel Macron's final years in power and the shape of France's democracy beyond them.